Sometimes, the most satisfying meals come from what is already in your kitchen. Today, I'm making a simple pot of jollof rice using leftover tomato stew from earlier in the week. With a few fresh ingredients and a little bit of patience, that stew becomes a completely new meal. I'll pair it with baked chicken and a quick beet salad for balance. This is one of the ways I keep cooking practical and calm every evening on a busy day. I begin with the leftover tomato stew. To freshen the flavor, I add freshly chopped onions and some bay leaves. I allow this to simmer a little bit in some oil. Even small additions like this can bring life back to a dish that was made a few days earlier. This is one of the things I appreciate about cooking. Food doesn't always have to start from scratch to make it feel nourishing. While this warms up, I often think about how cooking can feel overwhelming when we imagine every meal must be elaborate. But sometimes, it's simply about using what you already have prepared. A little rhythm in the kitchen that can turn leftover into something comforting rather than repetitive. With the stew simmering, I move on to my chicken. These are pieces of chicken I had already marinated earlier in the week. I simply place them on a tray and bake in the oven for about 40 to 50 minutes. This is another small kitchen rhythm that helps during busy weeks, preparing elements ahead of time so the meals come together easily. Whilst that bake, I come back to the stew. Now I add my seasoning generously, giving the base enough flavor to carry the rice. My signature seasoning here includes nutmeg. I do not go without nutmeg in jollof rice. Next, I wash the rice. I like to rinse it several times until the water runs clear. This helps remove excess starch so the rice cooks lighter and fluffier. There, this is how your water should look after several rinses. Now the rice looks ready. Once the rice is ready, I add this directly to the stew and mix gently. After mixing, I try to add in my salt and then mix again. I allow the rice to toast slightly in the stew for a few minutes before adding water. This step adds a little bit of depth to the flavor. After the rice toasts briefly, I add water and then cover the pot. My rule of thumb usually is 1 cup rice and ½ cup water. But everyone is different. You pick a ratio that works for you. Others use a 1-to-1 ratio, and that works as well. I like to place parchment paper over the pot before the lid. This helps trap the steam so the rice cooks evenly. Every so often, I check the rice and gently fluff it to make sure everything cooks through. Cooking traditional foods can sometimes feel intimidating, because of the number of steps. But I've learned to approach these dishes the way I approach projects at work, breaking them down into smaller milestones. First the stew, then the rice, and then the sides. When you cook this way, the process feels calmer and more manageable. Meanwhile, I check on my chicken and it looks like it's fully baked. I go back to my rice, fluff it once again to ensure that it is fully cooked. It appears that it is, so there you go. 2 dishes completed. To balance the meal, I prepare a quick salad. I start with making the salad dressing, which is olive oil, mustard, black pepper, some date syrup, and a squeeze of some orange juice. It's fresh, slightly sweet, and pairs beautifully with the richness of the jollof. For the salad, I start with lettuce. And then I add in the steamed beets. This was slightly steamed or cooked for about 5 to 7 minutes. I added a handful of freshly chopped onions and some nuts for texture. The nuts are optional, but it does add a bit of crunch to the salad. And then the salad dressing we just made. This salad pairs beautifully with the jollof. Meals like this reminds us that caring for ourselves doesn't always require complicated routines. Sometimes it's simply preparing food that feels good to eat. Even on busy days, taking time to make a balanced plate can help us feel more grounded and in control. With the chicken now fully baked, the rice fluffy, and the salad ready, everything comes together into a meal that started with something very simple, leftover stew. If this kind of calm, practical cooking resonates with you, you're always welcome here in my kitchen. Thank you for spending a little time with me today in the kitchen, even though I have a bit of a cold and slightly muffled. Until next time, see you.